I always like to start with the bombshell. I didn't like this game. Cool. Now, 90% of the people who clicked this have now, removed themselves from watching it. Which that's part of the reason for doing that, is just to filter out people. So filter, filter, filter. Okay, cool. A lot of you gave me some really cool feedback on my last video where I was talking about the 1 out of 10 and the reviews and all that fun stuff. And I took a lot of that to heart. Some of you probably don't know this. I actually read all my comments. So I took it to heart and I went through it, and I've decided that a lot of people had a good point, or rather several good points. Several people mentioned that while obviously there's not really a lot of value in a true analytical perspective from the kind of reviews that most people say, from a perspective of or it's actually pretty useful. So in that spirit, I'd like to kind of give 4 thumbs up or thumbs downs, if that's okay with you. I've always judged everything on 4 different categories, right? There's the story core, there's the story presentation, the gameplay core, and the gameplay presentation. And you know what I mean by this, right? You could probably think right off the top of your head a game that had cool core gameplay, but it was like irritating or frustrating or had too many menu clicks or bad interface design or whatever. Or a game that had irritating core gameplay, but had really nice quality of life features and it was really smooth and fun to play. A story with a great kernel nugget to it, but very badly presented, or a very well presented story that wasn't very good. Right? This is how I've always judged things. We do things on 2 axes because there's not really a lot of reason to differentiate these. But for these things, I'll go and do thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever it is, right? So for this game, Spiritfarer, core story, thumbs up. Story presentation, thumbs down. Core gameplay, thumbs down. Gameplay presentation, thumbs down. And there's your review right there. No spoilers, no nothing. And you don't need to go read the document or watch the stream or any of that other stuff. I don't like to criticize without critiquing, so I actually wrote down some notes here about how I would fix it. Oh my god, the music's muted. Why is the music muted? Whatever, I'm just going to restart the song. Is that cool with everyone? Is that cool? We're just going to do that. So, I'm tired. I'm still recovering from being sick. What do you want from me? Let me qualify a bit of that. So, this game, this is a time waster game. I don't mean that as an insult. It's a proper category of game design. It's a game that's designed, you know what I mean, right? You're just sitting there and it's there, it's something to chew up some time. You don't really want to be engaged on either axis. You just kind of want to go through it, right? Time waster, cool. So this is a time waster game. That's not really the problem, because if you think about it, you can probably think of a few other games that are time waster games. A lot of them are mobile games, but one of them that comes to my mind immediately is Animal Crossing. So you get the concept. But the thing that really sticks with me is how the story clearly wanted to tell its tale, and the gameplay had no idea how to accommodate that. At first glance, the ideas of the gameplay work. The core gameplay elements could have worked, but they would need almost a total overhaul to do so, in my opinion. For example, one of the things that you could have done is you could have completely removed material gathering as a resource thing and instead make it an unlock thing. You go to a mining node, you find an iron node, you now have access to iron, completely ejecting grind from the game and a fairly large amount of backtracking as well. Maybe that, you successfully plant an onion, now you have access to onions, that kind of a thing. Another thing they could have done is reduce the travel time at least a little bit. Not a lot. The travel time was actually one of the better designed parts of the game, and I didn't actually ding it on the gameplay axis, but that is something that would probably help the overall length of the game. The game does a lot of things based on time, like a lot of triggers based on time, including the quests, which are the meat of the game. A lot of quests require time. For those of you who are watching the stream, you know that twice we had to just sit and wait for over an hour of real time doing absolutely nothing, just waiting for the next quest to trigger. Because time was the limiter. Allowing us to... So what you can do is when it's nighttime, you can go sleep at bed. Why can't we do that at any point in time? We've actually run into this problem once before over on a game called Enderal, which is based off of a Skyrim mod. And that game doesn't have a proper wait feature, but it also has time-sensitive quests, and you already see the problem. Giving us a wait button would have been invaluable to helping with a lot of these time-gating problems, especially towards the end game where a lot of the quests are designed around waiting, but you can't get those quests until you're already at the end of the game, so you have nothing else to do while you're waiting for them. Even if you play the game normally, which I have several accounts talking about, and you get to the end game and you're just sitting there waiting because you've done everything, and you couldn't access the waiting quest until you're already at the end. Now, I've thought of several additional ways you could fix the gameplay of this game, and we can take it in a lot of different directions. There was some cool sequences here and there, you know, leaning into the platforming more, or leaning into the management more might have been fun. But all of that requires time and effort and work. Let me give you the simplest, easiest answer I have come up with in order to fix the gameplay of Spiritfarer. Remove it. Just get rid of it. Now, that's not really an insult, as bizarre as that sounds, because I legitimately think this game would be vastly improved if you just controlled the character and it was effectively a walking sim. You just walk to the character, listen to their stories, listen to their troubles, you know, take them on the ferry, listen to their final outro, give them a hug, and then they're gone. I think that would have actually worked a lot better. It would have also been a lot shorter, because this is a 8, I think, actually, an 8-hour game, except it's actually a 35-hour game. And all that extra time, right? Now, that is, of course, just my opinion, and I look forward to being absolutely blasted for this, because if I could be real with you for a second, this is for those of you who didn't watch the stream, because I talked about this more than once on the stream. This game was driving me bonkers. Not because I hated it. That's I can deal with a game I don't like. No, but because everybody loves this game. And I can see why. It's because you like the story aspect. It's because you like chilling and being casual and just kind of doing your own thing without any real particular pace to it. It's because it's a zero friction game, which is a real game design term. Unlike all the game design terms I come up with, which are just nonsense. It's a game that it's an indie darling, right? It has good visuals, it has good music, and it likes to hit you right in the feels. And that's pretty much the formula for an indie darling game. So of course people like it. No judgment. I do not think this is a good game. And this is the biggest sin I have that I could level at this game. Because I think that all of the problems, and there were so many, between the backtrack... I'm not going to go down the list. This is supposed to be a short little thing before I start up my next stream. But between all of the things with the pacing and the padding and the seconds and minutes and the animation and the lack of info in game and the interface problems and the backtracking and the grinding and the waiting, I actually think the gameplay gets in the way of the story. Because what ends up happening is you get a snippet of someone's story, and then a snippet of someone's story, and then a snippet of someone's story, and they're spread way out. And it just kind of hurts the presentation axis, which is why I gave that a thumbs down over here in the lower left, or lower right from your perspective. Because I do actually like the core story. And I'm not going to lie, this game made me cry 3 times. Beverly, Alice, and Jackie, if you're wondering. But, just to get that out of the way. But I really feel like the game actually gets in the way of that. And that's why I've come down so hard on it. Because the game defeats itself. I feel like a lot of people are willing to forgive that stuff because they either don't care as much, or because all they remember is the positive aspects. I have a legitimate question, and there is no judgment, no flaming here. I'm going to get blasted on the comments of this. But I want to know how many of you remember pretty much just the positives of this game until I mentioned those huge padding periods, or those waiting periods, or backtracking to go get more resources, or having to wait and sit there doing the music minigame over and over to grow the plants in order to be able to pull up the things in order to fulfill the quest requirements, or doing the errands, or doing the tasks, or any of that stuff. Or just roaming around not even sure what to do next because there's not a lot of info in game. How many of you, once reminded, remember that? Because there's something I've noticed. A lot of people, in something they like, at the end of the day, they're just the general thumbs up, thumbs down, they tend to remember the good parts of the thing they like. And something they dislike, they tend to only remember the bad parts, ignoring the inverse of both, right? And so I'm curious, legitimately curious, how many of you have been reminded of parts of this game that you didn't actually like, that you just kind of pushed away because the rest of it made up for it. Net positive, as the saying goes. Honest curiosity. Also, I hate that it was just a dream idea. Anyway, so, that's all I got. We're going to play Dragon's Dogma next. See you guys.